Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited that you're here today. My name is Robin Fleming. I'm an assistant teaching professor at the University of Washington in Bothell in the School of Nursing and Health Studies. And I'm also a board member of NNN, a very proud board member. One of the reasons I was so excited to join the board is because programs such as those run by NNN, virtual villages that work to keep seniors aging in the comfort of their own homes, has tremendous health benefits that the research is showing. And so as a community health and policy person, I completely support the work that NNN is doing to keep people connected, healthy, socially engaged. I would like to now introduce the students who are bringing this project that they have been working on for weeks to present to you. We know that financial wellness is a component of health, and it's very important that seniors have an awareness of how to avoid scams, how to keep themselves financially healthy. And so the students are going to present to you today information related to how financial wellness impacts your health and ways to avoid getting scammed to ensure that that nest egg of yours remains yours and something that you can count on in the years ahead. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce my students, my wonderful students. So we have Mary Olayan Ya, Burhan Dara, Burhanu Dara. We have Sophia Yuk.
Hello.
And Natalie Grimm. And I will now turn it over to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin. Again, thank you for everyone for coming to our presentation today. We hope that you guys take a lot out of our event in order to help kind of provide more knowledge and education in your back pocket to keep you guys safe from the topic that we'll be speaking with. So let's go ahead and get started. As Robin had mentioned, my name is Mary. I'm one of the students that she has in her class for the University of Washington Bothell RN to BSN program. And today I'm joined by my fellow nurses and classmates. Our presentation will be about how to avoid tech scams in order to protect your health, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. This presentation is a collaboration between the UW Bothell RN to BSN program and Northwest Neighbors Network. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I will go ahead and share my screen. And here we are. All right, so why are we talking about this now? Well, as nurses, we care a lot about your health, whether that's your physical, your emotional, or your financial health. We already know that scammers often target vulnerable populations such as senior citizens because of their retirement savings. And with the surge of the pandemic, everyone has been forced to social distance, isolate, and basically force a lot of us to rely on technology to stay connected with our loved ones. Unfortunately, scammers have taken advantage of this. The elderly population was already a top target for many of the scammers. And now with this population having to use technology paired with maybe a few technological difficulties because of less savviness, this population has now been at a greater risk than ever before. As a response, government agencies have been warning against COVID-19 and basically saying why it's very important for everyone to be educated in this topic. And that's why we ultimately chose to host an event speaking about this in order to do our own due diligence in helping you all stay safe from being a victim. So here is a short but very recent news video. It was published in September. And basically it just talks about how elderly scams are on the rise.
Well, it looks like the coronavirus pandemic created new opportunities for scammers to take advantage of seniors. The FTC said scams are on the rise, especially for people 60 and older. Consumer reporter Sasha Jones has important information to protect those who are most vulnerable.
Since January 2020, adults ages 60 and older reported nearly 26,000 pandemic-related scams, with a combined loss totaling over $141 million. On Thursday, the U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging held a hearing to shed light on how the coronavirus created new opportunities for fraudsters to take advantage of older Americans. Some of the most common scams involved romance, tech support, and grandparent scams. One victim who testified talked about how she lost her life savings to a romance scam that started out with an innocent friend request on Facebook.
Something wasn't right. By now, I had sent him a total of $39,000, which to some people is not much, but to someone in my position, it's a great deal.
These con artists and fraudsters prey upon seniors because they know they have a lot of assets that they've built up over their lifetime.
Senator Casey announced today that he is reintroducing the Stop Senior Scams Act. The bill would create an advisory committee to ensure banks and other businesses have the information and tools they need to train employees to spot and speak up if they suspect someone is being scammed. In the meantime, if you have elderly relatives or neighbors, remind them to watch out for fake caller IDs, callers who claim to be government employees or police. And if they're being pressured by a caller not to consult with friends and family, tell them to hang up the call immediately. And remember, never click on a link you get in a text or email asking you to verify an account. Instead, if you're worried, call the company directly to confirm whether they need something from you. The U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging has resources on its website if you or a loved one has been scammed. Sasha Jones, NBC6 Response.
Well, it looks like the coronavirus pandemic created new opportunities for scammers to take advantage of seniors.
All right. So as you heard in the video, scammers are evolving with the times and are getting smarter and trickier, especially utilizing COVID-19 and the instances that we've been placed because of it. After this event, my group and I will be putting together a resource flyer that basically includes more information on resources that you guys can look into in order to add more knowledge to your back pocket. We will add information such as the Stop Senior Scams Act that they did mention in the video.
Well, it looks like the coronavirus pandemic created new opportunities.
There we go. All right, and then this is going to be Burhanu speaking about the impacts of scams on health.
Okay, thank you again, guys. My name is Burhanu again. So there is two goals. I need to talk. One is the goal of the scammer is to take your money, and the goal of our presentation is to protect and promote our sinners. So let's look the impact of people who lost their money, or victims may have a mental or mental health impact. I will talk the negative impact of mental health, like stress, anxiety, depression, anger, embarrassment, helplessness, or feeling hopeless. So people, a lot of research showing people who lost their money can have these symptoms. So it is dangerous for them. The other impact is the financial burden placed on the victims. Related to COVID, nearly about 626,000 reported related to COVID-19 and stimulus payment. So among them, 73% of them involved in fraud and identity theft. So what we see here is we don't need to ignore scammers. The scammers are just taking their money and costing consumer about $588.2 million. This research shows scammer affect financially and mentally to the sinners.
Thank you, Berhanu. So now that we know the reason why we decided to talk about this topic, we also want to educate you guys on the most common types of scams that you or someone you know might come across. The first one being is robocalls or callback scams. So what this is an automated or a recorded message that you often get via phone call. And their ultimate goal is to either sell you something or promise you something for free. Keep in mind that this is always going to be fake and nothing will ever be given to you. Examples of this, especially in times of COVID, would be like free home test kits, fake health insurance, bogus vaccine appointments, and even promises of financial relief. What a robocall might sound like, it would be something like this.
Response Act has made coronavirus testing more accessible immediately. If you want to receive a free testing kit delivered overnight to your home, press 1. If you do not want your free testing, press 2.
So as you can tell, it's automated, very cut and dry, and it wants you to engage with a phone call. Our biggest tip for this is don't even press 2 to say you don't want it, because ultimately somehow they're going to get some kind of information from you if you do engage in a robocall. The next type of scam that people often come across is something called a survey scam. This can be sent via phone, an email, a text, even through social media. And it's basically asking you to participate in some kind of survey, poll, or questionnaire, giving your feedback about a product, a website, whatever it is. Ultimately, their goal is to get your information, whether that's your name, address, or even your payment information. In response, they will often promise you a free prize. A lot of times these will be grand prices like a free iPad or maybe an iPhone on a discounted price, or sometimes they'll say, hey, this is free, but you just have to pay for shipping. Keep in mind that even putting your name for shipping puts your information, your name, your address, and paying for shipping, of course, would be your payment information. A lot of survey scams may contain bad grammar, misspellings, or weird word choices. So those should be red flags for you. And at no circumstance should you be giving any kind of information that includes your social security number or your credit card information. Here are a couple examples of what survey scams may look like. Sometimes they can pop up in your browser if you do come into a website, kind of like the Dear Chrome user here to the left. And then it's asking you to take a survey. In exchange, we'll give you a free chance at a free Apple iPhone. Again, too good to be true. The one on the right is more in tune with our current times with COVID pandemic. These ones are surveys regarding the current vaccines that are out. So we have Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna. Again, they look very legitimate, but keep in mind that a lot of times companies, if they do send out a survey, there are many ways to make sure that it's correct. If anything were to pop up in your browser or in your email out of nowhere and it seems very random, to be very cautious with how you approach it.
The next thing I'd like to talk to you about are phone notifications about scams. If you have T-Mobile, AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, or Metro PCS, you may have the scam likely function. This feature can automatically alert you when it recognizes a suspicious number by the call coming in showing a scam likely on your smartphone. Phishing scams. This is fancy lingo for fake emails, texts, or even private social media messages that are intended to lure you into giving your personal information, passwords, or account info. This next slide is an example that highlights ways you can recognize an email as a phishing email. At the top of the email, you can see that this email address is not coming from Facebook itself. It's coming from @S162, etc. In the bottom left, you can see that the go-to Facebook link, when you hover above it, is not going to facebook.com. It's going to a different website. The Facebook technical support does not give any other contact information, and by saying you in the headline, it doesn't even apply that it knows who you are. These are just some of the main things that you can keep a lookout when you're going through your email and even in your junk email account. Hover over those links before you press anything. These next two are just more examples of what the phishing emails can look like. These look very legitimate, as if they're coming from Netflix or Dropbox, which are two companies that we know well and we trust, but they are not coming from Netflix or Dropbox. And if you were to hover over those click here buttons, it would not be taking you to their sites. So, talking about romance scams. Oh, how love can be deceitful. Be careful when using online dating apps or websites. Scammers can make fake dating profiles, like we saw in that last video from the news reporter. They will often give excuses as to why they cannot meet in person and will prey on your emotions. When someone who you've never met in person is asking you for money, this is a big red flag. So, to talk about some COVID-19 specific scams, these are some of the ones that have emerged during this pandemic, unfortunately. One of the main ones that has come out is pretending to be the COVID-19 contact tracers. They're not only getting your information, but they could potentially get the information of those who you've been in contact with, your friends, your family, by acting as if someone else that you may know had COVID, you were in contact with them, and then they want your information and everyone else around you. That's a really big one to be wary of. Grant calls and emails saying that they may be providing you with financial assistance. As we know, there has been some financial assistance given, but this is not going to come in the form of an email or of a phone call. These are things that you would go through official government websites to get. COVID-19 treatments and prevention, like we saw previously that Eileen had talked about, and COVID-19 PPE donations and scams. All in all, don't give away your information. It can be very dangerous online. Next, Sophia is going to talk about how to avoid being a scam victim.
Hi. So to start off with red flags, so we know that for the most part, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably a scam. What are the odds that free money is actually real and actually free, especially if you happen to win a lottery ticket that you never bought? As much as we would like free money, unfortunately, this is just a bit unrealistic in current times. It is most likely a scam. Any calls about a free trip or cruise to another country is most likely a scam unless you join like some sort of auction or are aware that you did apply for a free trip somewhere that you trust. In this case, if the person calling you is asking for any personal information such as your bank account number, your social security, any bank cards, or a request for you to get prepaid gift cards or debit cards and to send them payment, it's most likely a scam and you should hang up the phone or stop replying to their emails. It's important to recognize these red flags that indicate someone is trying to scam you so you're able to catch and stop them yourself before it's too late. For example, any emails or phone calls regarding a miracle cure or a quick, easy, and cheap fix for anything are huge red flags. They're trying to use these words as bait to reel you in because they can be enticing, especially if these miracle cures require you to buy something like medication, which in that case, I would suggest that you talk to your primary care doctor or someone that you trust about the miracle cure or medication before you buy anything. Like we just said before, any suspicious links, especially if something is spelled incorrectly or the grammar is incorrect, can be a red flag, especially if it says that you've won something or if it's asking for money. Learning to recognize these red flags is really important so you can avoid clicking on these suspicious links that could lead to a scam. Never trust anyone who is trying to get your personal information unless you 100% know for a fact that it is someone that you know or a company or a bank that you are affiliated with, especially when making over the phone payments. Typically, you are the ones calling your bank to make a payment. If someone calls you and states they are your bank inquiring a payment that you are not aware of, hang up and call your bank directly or physically go to your bank to make sure that statement is correct. So the Federal Communications Commission, also known as the FCC, is an independent US government agency who basically regulates interstate and international communication by radio, TV, satellite, and cable. On their website, they have tips about how to stop unwanted robocalls and texts. They want to help protect consumers from robocalls and provide tips on how to avoid phone scams. Some of these tips include do not respond to calls or texts from unknown numbers or any others that appear suspicious. Never share your personal or financial information via email, text message, or over the phone. Be cautious if you're being pressured to share any information or make a payment immediately. Always remember that government agencies will never call you to ask for personal information or money. Do not click any links in a text message. If a friend sends you a text with a suspicious link that kind of seems weird or out of character, you can call them to make sure that they weren't hacked in, see if they're really asking you for money or not. If you would like more information, it can be found at the website listed, and we'll have listed links as well. So I feel like this one is a pretty common question. Is it a scam or is it actually the IRS? So how to kind of tell the difference is that the IRS will never call a taxpayer to demand immediate payment. They will also never call about taxes without mailing a bill. So if you haven't received any bills from the IRS, there's a good chance that IRS call is a scam. A good tip to know is that the IRS will give an opportunity to question or appeal the amount that is owed. Next slide, please. Thank you. So if the person you're on the phone with is demanding money right now, immediately, today, it is most likely a scam, especially if they are also threatening to send local police force or other law enforcement to have you arrested. They will never ask for any card or bank information over the phone, and they will never require a specific payment method, such as a prepaid gift card or debit card. If someone is asking you to put money into several prepaid cards, recognize that as a huge red flag because these are not usually forms of payment that banks or the IRS ask for. And here is a listed number and a link where you can report any IRS scams you've encountered and you know that you don't owe any taxes. So how can NNN volunteers help? Our NNN volunteers provide a variety of services that members can request. More specifically, they can offer technological aid and support. If you need help or assistance with your phone, your TV, computer, or other electronics that you have, they are here to provide you support in those areas. And then volunteers may also be able to help look for evidence of scams, such as suspicious looking emails or letters that you might have. It's always good to have others surrounding you so that they and yourself can be aware of any red flags that could end up being potentially a victim of being scammed. If possible, NNN volunteers can also engage in consistent or regular contact under COVID guidelines, of course, so that the community members aren't home alone for too long and they have someone to refer to ask any questions to.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophia. So that kind of concludes all the information that we wanted to give to you guys. And some of you might be like, whoa, that was really fast and a lot of information in such a short time. Don't worry, that's why we wanted to record this PowerPoint, is because we want you guys to be able to look back on it and rewatch it in case you are missing any kind of information. Also, we know that a lot of this information can be really overwhelming, so we just decided to choose a lot of the more key points and red flags that we really wanted to highlight. To end our presentation section of this event, we found this amazing video by Google for Education, basically talking about, phishings and scams. In this video, they do call scams social engineering. So just keep in mind, anytime you hear that term, know that they are talking about scams. So since we are well within our time, I'll go ahead and play this video. That way everyone can watch it.
Most of the stuff you find on the web is good and can be useful. But just as in the offline world, you also need to watch out for the occasional bandit. In the offline world, if a stranger offered you some candy, you know better than to take it. The same principle applies online. If someone offers you a discount coupon, asks you to take a survey to win a free smartphone, or tells you that you want a trip to Hawaii, you should be suspicious of the content and the intention behind it. Social engineering is a technical term for content that tricks you into revealing personal information, like your login details or credit card number. Social engineering attacks can happen over email, ads, or web pages. Some attacks can be pretty easy to spot. Remember the rich prince who wanted to transfer millions of dollars to your account? But others can be sophisticated and pretty convincing. So let's talk about some steps you can take to avoid online scams. One of the most common ways to trick users is through email. Social engineering emails look like they're from a legitimate source, but they're not. For example, an email may claim to be from a bank and say that your banking account has been compromised and that you must quickly email them your password to avoid having the money stolen. It's important to remember, never send personal information over email unless you're absolutely sure who you're sending it to. Attackers will use every trick in the book to make you believe that the address in an email is legitimate, faking the from address to make it look like it's from someone you know. So don't use the reply address in the message unless you are sure who the sender is, and don't click on links in the email. Instead, open a new window and type in the official website of the bank or company in question and find the contact address. Social engineering can also happen when you visit a web page. Scammers will generate a sense of urgency and create websites that look similar to sites that you already use. That's why, when visiting a web page, pay close attention to the page's URL, because attackers will often make this URL look similar to that of a genuine site. Before you enter any personal information on a web page, check the URL to make sure it starts with HTTPS and is preceded by a locked padlock icon. Other types of scams can trick you into downloading malware or unwanted software that may harm your device or steal your personal information. A website or an ad cannot detect if your machine is compromised. If you see a message while browsing saying that your computer is infected and asking you to download software, you should be suspicious. Remember to always download software from reputable sources. Now you know what social engineering is, as well as steps you can take to avoid online scams. And remember, if something looks too good to be true, it probably isn't.
Awesome. Alrighty. So I think that that video does a good job at kind of putting everything together in a nice big bow. These are some of the links. These are videos that we actually initially had in our original presentation that we wanted to share, but because we didn't want our presentation to be too long, we just made it into links. But like I mentioned, my group and I will get together and basically put together a more thorough resource flyer that I think Elizabeth is able to send out to members. That way you can also kind of browse at that at your leisure. And we just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for NNN for allowing us to partner with them in hosting this event. I know that they're always on the lookout for more volunteers. And so we posted all their contact information if that is something that you're interested in. All righty. And then with that being said, we can roll on to our next portion, which is basically just an open floor Q&A for any of our audience members. If there's any questions that you guys had while listening to our presentation that we didn't answer, or if you need clarifications on anything.
I had a question.
Yes.
There's been times when I've gotten Robo calls and it'll say push 1 for more information, push 2 to be removed from our call list. And I've never pushed 2. I just hang up and block the call. But I'm guessing if you're pushing 2 isn't going to really accomplish anything.
No, it will not.
Okay.
You're making the right decision. Just hang up the call.
Okay, and like I say, I've also on my phone at least, I have the option when I get those, I can block the caller, which I don't know if it helps. They just call from another number or what the next time, but at least I don't get another call from that number.
Yeah, you can always try, but like you said, they have a very large list of numbers and it's a machine that they can just auto generate, and it'll even, some of these phone calls will come from area codes that are in your area because they know where you are for your area code. And so, for example, I'm in the 425 area code. I get 425 scammers calling me, even though that would generally be a number that I would think, oh, I should trust this, and I answer it. So that kind of thing is, just be wary. It can be a normal looking number and it is not.
I'm lucky because my phone number is an LA number, area code. And so I'm any LA area code number I don't recognize, I automatically know is a scam. So
there you go. Yeah, perfect.
That helps.
Thank you.
So there's a question in the chat. Seattle Times publicized this website to get all one's vaccination details into a convenient place. And since it's associated with health and they're associated with the Washington State Health Department, I was wondering if you've heard of this. And Elizabeth answered that yes, she has done that. And it's very helpful to have it on your phone for proof of vaccination.
Yeah, it's super easy to sign up, and you can download the screenshot. It's like it's a QR code that you can scan whenever you go into a restaurant or whatever. So if you lose your paper copy, you have it on your phone. So it's a reputable site.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I've just taken a picture of my cards and carry that on my phone that way too.
That's what I've done too.
Yes, I don't think I've actually heard of this website before, but I know there's a lot of reputable companies that are working with Washington State Health. Actually, during the peak of COVID, when I was working at Providence on the COVID unit, I partnered with Washington State Health Department to basically roll out their contact tracing. That was a legitimate resource. And so I know that as long as you're able to see that they are somehow partnered with the Washington State Health Department or a company, a business that is reputable, then, I would just always be cautious on it.
I would say that taking a picture is fine, but if you have a QR code, I guess it just makes it faster and easier so that people don't have to look at the card and look at all the fine details. But it looks like this. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a QR code with my name and my vaccine information down below.
That's really smart. I like that idea.
One of the things that I come across as I'm working with our members is that we have some members whose short-term memory isn't all that good. And so you'll come to visit and they'll say, Amazon called me and I don't even have an Amazon account. And they say, I owe $649. And we'll go through it and we'll say, well, you don't have an account and it's just crooks trying to get your money from you. Don't worry about it. And you can come back in a day or two later and you will have that repeat conversation. And talking about with them about what they should or should not do, the next time you come, they have forgotten what you said. So I've tried to think, what could one do that was something around the telephone that just sort of screams at them when they pick up the phone, I don't know. But I wish there was something we could do that would be constantly reminding them as they deal with the phone or their email to be wary.
Do you think there's even just like a flyer we could print off for our members to put next to their phone or computer?
Yeah.
Amazon's not calling you.
I know that Natalie briefly mentioned it during our presentation, but if you have a certain phone carrier, T-Mobile, AT&T, Metro, PCS, a lot of us automatically have the scam likely function. So that's a really neat function that we already get embedded right away. And just screens all the calls that, because how it works is basically those carriers have partnered with a national agency that does screen numbers that they know are often used by scammers. And so if a number does get flagged as like a scammer used number, then that's how the scam likely feature gets populated on your phone. And so I know that not all carriers have that, but at least it's a nice start. As for our group, at least, I know we wanted to put together like a short and sweet, like little flyer, or maybe like something that we could give out to the members in case they want a quick resource on like, if this happens, or if you come across this, this is what you should keep an eye on. So that's something that we can definitely put together and hand off to Elizabeth to see if the members would benefit from that.
Adding on to that, something that I've experimented with my phone. I don't know if it works for Android users, but I have an iPhone. There is an option in your settings where you can just automatically block all calls, all scam likely calls, and they will immediately they either go to your voicemail or like it won't ring. And I know this can be difficult because sometimes it might block out numbers that you aren't saved to your phone, but you're like, oh, I know this is my doctor's office. I know this is my dentist's office. But oftentimes those people typically leave a voicemail for you to call back. So that way, if whoever is calling you really needed to reach you, they would have left a voicemail for you to contact them. And if they are truly a scam, then either way, you're being kind of more on the cautious and safe side instead of picking that scam likely call when, yeah.
My question is, these are fantastic problem solvers for phones. However, when you're sitting in front of your computer, that's where I have gotten myself in trouble, is in front of the computer when something I thought was a real thing, because it had all the bells and whistles, it had all the logos, it looked so real and so official. How I think Sandy's concern is working on the computer. These people will forget. I might even forget, and I'm not even diagnosed yet, but I might forget. Anyhow, so how do we alert them on their actual computer? But my phone does the scam thing, but I rarely get things anymore because of that, but I still get lots and lots on my computer. So
I want to add some information here. Like I read some of the news. Like if we forgot, let's say we order something on Amazon and we forgot Amazon customer service, and as I go Google and I'm saying Amazon customer service, and you will see a phone number around there. Or they state scammers write down the bank name and they say customer service or Amazon customer service phone number or Chase Bank customer service or US Bank customer service. Some of them is fake. It's not a real bank number or it's not Amazon number. Scammers, they put their phone number and then you can call directly. So it is good to write down or the exact our bank and the Amazon customer service phone number before we call. Otherwise, the internet we are seeing is some of them leading to the scammers because the scammers are purposely doing to talk to the people.
Yeah, and kind of to just address Gail's question, unfortunately, we have all these great resources for our phone to screen calls, but when it comes to like emails or computer, it's odd enough, technology isn't there yet. And so I would say that one tactic we really want to rely on is education. Just continue educating your members about what these scammers how they target you, how they approach their victims. And one of the things that we've actually mentioned to Robin is if this is like an event that a lot of members, had great feedback on and want to continue making it maybe more of a consistent thing, whether that's a monthly, annual thing, whatever it is, just continuing that education piece, because even when COVID eventually, hopefully eventually ends, the problem of scams will always be there. It's always going to be a prevalent thing, unfortunately. And continuous education is something that will always help. I mean, that's how a lot of, in the nursing world, medicine is always changing. And as nurses, we always have to keep staying up to date with the new technology and whatnot. And so we are huge advocates for education in whatever form that is.
Hear, hear. And I would just like to add to that, scammers, are continuing to evolve and trying to stay one step ahead, right? And so we are waiting for some kind of scam likely technology to be produced to help us stay safe on our computers. But in the meantime, if you even have a suspicion, just don't click on links, And I think we might have time for one more question if there is any more, but it is time for us to wrap up. And so if there's any more questions, go ahead. And I'm not seeing chats or hearing anyone speaking. So I just want to take the time to thank you very, very much for your attendance today, for being here today. And a huge shout out to NNN for co-sponsoring this important event to protect your health, your safety, your financial wellness, and to the students who have spent weeks researching this, looking at all the research related to health, related to they are incredible nurses, and we're very lucky to have them and to have them educating our community members and working with NNN. So thank you to everyone and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.